Super excited to be here. This is kind of our Super Bowl. Who cares about the Chiefs and whoever else is in there? This is the health Super Bowl. And as I was driving over here, I was kind of hit with a little wave of sadness for the fact that we're on a catastrophic trajectory when it comes to our health. The direction of our health is really going in a terrible direction in terms of a country and a culture and a state, and Middle Tennessee as a whole. About 70% or so of adults are overweight or obese. About 50% of our kids are overweight or obese. We're taking about 75% of all the world's drugs, and we make about 5% of the world's population. So we're taking 3/4 of the world's drugs, and we're only about 5% of the world's people. And when you look at healthcare spending and healthcare cost, that's really what's going to bankrupt us. It's not going to be the open borders or the wars in overseas. The real thing that's going to bankrupt us is going to be our health problems. We spend about $4.5 trillion per year on sickness and disease, and that is 7 times more than our entire defense budget. So we spend about $600 billion per year on our defense budget. We spend 7 times that number on sickness, disease, catastrophic illness, and the like. So it's really getting worse and worse. 40% of our adults are on an antidepressant, and I really find it hard to believe that God made our bodies in such a way that we have to take a pill. Half of us in the country have to take a pill in order to feel normal. And while those may have some short-term utilization, some utility in the short term, it's not addressing the root problem. And then really the biggest, scariest statistic is that 35% of our kids are on what's called a chronic medication. So that means they're taking a drug today that they're going to keep taking for the rest of their life, which is largely how it works for all drugs. When you're put on a blood pressure pill, when do they tell you to stop taking it? Never. When you're put on a cholesterol drug, how long do you have to take that? Or an antidepressant, or a proton pump inhibitor, or you fill in the name drug. Once you get on the medication, you keep taking it for the rest of your life. So really that's the sad reality of where we're at, but there's hope because we can actually move the needle. So the two questions that I think are really the only important questions to ask when it comes to health and healthcare: why are we so sick, and what do we have to do to get and stay well? Because if we don't answer those questions, it doesn't really matter the technique or the protocol or the prescription we use. If we're not addressing why we're sick and what we have to do to get and stay well, none of that really matters. And I don't know if you guys know, but the Latin root word for doctor actually means teacher. So if you're not teaching people how to get and stay healthy and how to avoid drugs and surgeries and sickness in the first place, then in my opinion, you're really not doing your job as a doctor. So why are we sick, and what do we got to do to get and stay well? The prevailing notion is that we're sick because of bad luck, bad germs, or bad genes. And I'm here to tell you that is just bad science. We are not sick because of bad luck, bad germs, or bad genes, largely. We're sick because of bad lifestyle choices. We're sick because of bad environments and bad choices and bad food and bad things that we do to our body, and then we bioaccumulate the effects of those choices over time, and then they catch up with us. Diabetes is earned. I don't know if you realize that. You don't catch diabetes. You don't catch cancer. You don't catch heart disease. You don't catch autoimmune disorders. We don't catch these diseases. We develop those through years and years and years of hard work. To become a diabetic, you literally have to pummel your metabolism for years and years and years until you finally get that diagnosis. And I want you to hear me say, I'm not shaming or blaming. Like if you have those conditions, as of 10:11 a.m. on Saturday, it's not your fault. You're in a broken system. You're being lied to by drug companies and food companies and doctors and TV and advertising, told that you're a victim and that you're designed to be sick. So as of right now, it's not your fault. But when we get to the end of this at noon, guess whose fault it is now? Right. So we got to take ownership of our health. So let's talk about how to get through this. When we talk about genetics too, I want to hit on that real quick because most people still believe that if my mom and dad had cancer, I'm going to get cancer. If I had heart disease, or my grandmother lived to 102, so I've got the golden ticket. Me and Charlie going to the chocolate factory, right? So we got the golden ticket if we have good genes. Well, you can out-lifestyle good genes every single day of the week. And on the flip side of that, people say, well, my mom and dad both died in their 60s of heart disease or cancer, so it doesn't really matter what I do because it's just my genetics. So only about 5% of chronic disease is caused by genetics. And that's actually a pretty conservative number. More people say more like 2 to 3% of chronic disease has really anything to do with your genetics. And we're going to talk about genetics and how it actually does play a role, precisely really key with methylation, but it doesn't directly cause those chronic diseases. So I ask you this question. Next time you go to your doctor and they tell you that your high blood pressure is caused by your genes, or your high cholesterol is caused by your genes, or your diabetes is caused by your genes, ask them one simple question. It's one question with 2 words. What gene? So if my high blood pressure is caused by my genetics, what gene? Because we've mapped the entire human genome. We know every gene. We've known it for 2 decades. If it's caused by genetics, what gene is the one that's causing my high blood pressure? And they will not be able to answer that question, because there is no answer to that question, because it's not genetic. We can have predispositions and problem with a thing called methylation, which we're going to cover, but you're not a victim of your genes. Your genes are not your destiny. The genes load the gun. The environment has to pull the trigger. So I want you to leave with that hope. So the question is, so if it's lifestyle, then why do we make such bad lifestyle decisions? That's really the underlying question we have to answer. Why do we choose the donut over the apple? Raise your hand if you know that apples are better for you than donuts. Right? So I did this, hopefully we're all on the same page. I did this for 5th graders a few years ago, and I said, what's better for you, an apple or a donut? And they all said apple. Every 10-year-olds all know that. So why do we consistently choose the donut over the apple? So I think the answer is there's a couple reasons. Number one is we don't understand the devastation that's caused by that donut. At the cellular level, the chaos and the destruction that food really does cause to our physiology. And we don't understand the devastation of missing that apple. See, we think that the donut just packs on a few extra pounds or makes our kids a little bit squirrely, but the reality is it's a metabolic poison. We don't associate that donut with higher risk of cancer and heart disease and diabetes and allergies and arthritis and autoimmune disorders. And we don't associate that donut with significantly lower rates of all those diseases. But the fact is it's poison. So the question is, why, when we're identifying why we make these choices, the first thing we have to really identify is, what is your big why? Like, why are you here today? Why do you want to be healthy? Why did you take 2 hours on the most beautiful day we've had in the last 4 months to come sit and listen to me talk? Why are you here, and why do you want to be healthy? And for some people, because as the statistics show, about 60% of people in this room are going to listen to all this information. You're going to take notes. You're going to go home. You'll talk to your spouse on the way home or look some things up on the internet. But when Sunday rolls around, nothing's going to change. That's the way the statistics play out. 6 out of 10 people that go to health events and immersive experiences do absolutely nothing with the information that they've got. So I want to flip that. My desire and hope is that you take 1 or 2 or 10 things from what we talk about, implement it into your life, and radically change your health. Because you can radically change the trajectory of your health if we implement the right process. If you cut your finger, guess what's going to happen? Blood. What about a week later? Heals. Anyone ever had a paper cut that never healed? No. That's ridiculous. They all heal because your body's designed to do that if we give it the right things and get the heck out of the way sometimes. So I like to think we have like this little angel and this little devil on our shoulder. So we've got the devil on our shoulder, the little demon that says, you know what? Just hit the snooze button. You don't have to work out today. It's just a little bit of chocolate. Sugar's not that bad for you. You could do this tomorrow or start on Monday. You could just do it. Or worse, that voice says, you worthless piece of, you can't do this. Who are you to think that you could even, and you're not even worth doing this for. And then that angel on the shoulder says, you know what, you are worth it. You can make a change. You can do this, and you're worth it, and your family's worth it. So the reality is, if you have 2 dogs, you have one inside and one outside, which one gets bigger? The one you feed. The one you feed gets bigger. So I consciously try to make a concerted effort every day to starve that dog and keep him outside and let him die, versus the dog internally that keeps me motivated and keeps me going. So it's really about what we do with our mindset. And then we talk about behavioral change. So most people have tried behavioral modification. Like I'm going to start exercising at 5 a.m. every morning. People say that, right? But the problem is your belief system says, I don't like to exercise, and I certainly don't want to do it at 5 a.m. I'm going to exercise every morning at 5 a.m., but I don't like exercise. I want to exercise. And then boom, like it just explodes, right? For most people, that's before the morning of the first workout, right? That's like, I'm done. And then the other behavioral modifications, I'm going to get off sugar. And the belief system says, I like sugar. It tastes yummy, but I'm going to get off sugar. Nope, I think sugar's really not that bad for me. So you kind of have these internal conflicts that are driven by your belief system. So it doesn't really matter what techniques and what supplements we sell you and what we tell you to do and give you the diet plan and the nutrition. If you don't change the belief system and why you want to be healthy, then none of this really even matters. So for me, my big why is pretty clear. For a few reasons. My big why of why I want to be healthy is, number one, I want to keep doing this for a long time, and I feel like in some way I kind of have to be a little bit of a role model. Like there's an internal amount of accountability that comes with standing up and preaching to people like this. And the other big why, the bigger why, is I have a 2-year-old. So I'm 46 with a 2-year-old. So if you do the simple math on that, about the time he's entering college, I'm going to be entering Medicare. So I'm going to have a big 6 foot, yeah, you're there. I'm going to have about a 6'5" or so man living in my house, and then when he mouths off to mama, guess who's going to have to step in and show him that he can't do that in my house, right? So I want to have to be healthy to do that. And more importantly than that, I want to be able to play with him and wrestle with him, coach his ball team, walk my daughter down the aisle, and really, I want to play with my great-grandkids. That's my goal. I want to travel and go on vacation with my great-grandkids. And that may not happen. Tomorrow is never promised. But that for me is my big why. You see some of these, like I want to feel good, I want to lose weight, I want to fit better in the bikini. Those are not big whys. Those are kind of little bitty whys that might get you for a month or a 2-month period, but in reality, it's not going to get you out of bed at 5 a.m. The bigger why has to do with you, your family, God, service. That's really the big why. So write it down or make a mental note, like what is my big why? All right, let's jump into this. So the 5 things we're going to talk about: nutrition and the whole food supplements that are key to keeping healthy, toxicity and deficiency, your nervous system and stress, which is a big one. Anyone here not have stress? All right, great. Oxygen, lean muscle, and then emotions, mindset, and spiritual health. So we're going to blaze through this. I'm condensing like 8 hours of material in probably an hour and 30 minutes. So we're going to try to get through this as quick as we can. Keep your questions toward the end. Another big problem we have is we're being really unfair to the medical system. Like, you guys are being mean to the medical system. So what's happening is you're trusting these health experts, which are not really designed to keep you healthy. The goal of the medical system is really one thing. It's to keep you alive. And they do a fantastic to save your life and to keep you alive. That's the goal of the medical system. And do they do a good job of that? Yeah. Mostly. Right? If you have a gunshot wound, don't come here, right? If your artery if you're bleeding out, go to the medical system. But to get you and keep you healthy, there's really no setup in that system to keep you healthy. And it really works a lot like the fire department. So the American medical system has 2 main tools. They have axes and water hoses, just like the medical system has drugs and surgery, just like the fire department has axes and water hoses. So if you have a fire in your house, who do you call? Fire department. They're going to come in, kick down your front door, bash out your windows, spray down your furniture and your belongings, and if you called them on time and they do a good job, can they save the life of your house? Yes. And should we be grateful for that? Eternally. The question is, what's left when they're gone? It's a mess. And how much sense would it be to call back the fire department the next day to clean the house and repair the house and rebuild the drywall and fireproof and get all the house back into working order? Or would you need a different contractor with different skills and different tools to do that job? And that's the problem. We rely on that system, which is great for emergencies, to get us healthy and keep us healthy. And that's just not their job. That's not what they're designed to do. Do you realize the average medical doctor spends 2 hours studying nutrition? So the general practitioner who you go to get your blood work done and you trust them for all your health needs, they study for 2 hours, not credit hours, 2 clock hours about nutrition. They learn the B vitamins, they learn the amino acids, pretty basic, but then as all as goes. That's pretty much as far as it goes. So really, in our system, we have to have a different approach. We have to kind of separate this from a medical system which is great in emergencies versus taking ownership and finding other resources to get and stay healthy. And also too, like your insurance, everybody says, well, if my insurance doesn't pay for it, I'm not going to do it. Well, how stupid is that? You're going to let Blue Cross dictate your health outcomes? You remember the financial crisis in 2008? About 363 banks went under, like disappeared. Guess how many insurance companies went away? 0. Because they do a really good job of staying profitable on you staying sick. And then they're all in bed with big pharma and big government and big food, big corn, big dairy, big sugar. So really, who's responsible for your health? You are, right. Not me. I'm responsible for me. You are for you. So then who has to be the expert? Yeah, we got to be the expert. Otherwise, we have no chance. So that's really what today is about. So in terms of nutrition, this is the beach in the 60s and the beach now. And that seems almost comical, but there's some real truth to that, right? If most of you grew up in that era, you didn't see what you see today. And people say, well, I guess our genetics in 60 years have just completely fallen apart. Does anyone really believe that our genetics have just collapsed in the last 60 years? In the last 10,000 years, our genes have changed 0.04%. So our genes haven't changed in literally thousands of years, but in the last 30, 40, 50, 60 years, the rates of every disease we know has gone up. So really, it's not the genes, it's the lifestyle. Have you ever seen this flaming pile of horse manure? So this is from the University of Tufts University. It's endorsed by the NIH, so it's their new food compass. So instead of going from the pyramid to the plate, now we're at the compass. It still keeps getting worse. So in the red, if you can read that, it says that those are things to be minimized or avoided. So you want to avoid things in red, like whole egg fried in butter, cheddar cheese, and ground beef. Yellow is to be moderated, and then the green, that's the stuff that you really want to try to get. So you notice at the bottom you have like your eggs, poached eggs, boiled eggs, and ground beef. Those are like stay away from. But then above that you have Lucky Charms, which is better. And then you have frosted mini wheats right up there with kale. How can you believe anything these people say after they put garbage like that into the public?
That's a real chart.
That's a real chart.
What is in that?
The National Institutes of Health. Dr. Fauci's pet organization. That guy again. Another reason he should be in prison right now. So anyway, and that's the thing too, is we get our nutritional information. Do you remember Kellogg's cereal? You heard of that? You ever look at that psychopath's history? Yeah. See what he's into? That guy was a complete and utter lunatic. He advocated castrating boys and circumcising teenage boys to reduce sexual immorality. He would pour acid on the genitals of little girls to reduce their sexual impulses. He wanted to create a bland breakfast cereal so that we could stop all the sexual immorality in the country. And that's that's where breakfast actually came from. And you know, breakfast is probably the worst meal of the day for most people. And I know this may sound like heresy. How could you say breakfast is bad for you? But in reality, we're not designed to eat 3 meals a day. We're still hunter-gatherers. We're supposed to be getting up in the morning, hunting for our food, finding it, killing it, preparing it, and eating it. We're not designed to have an Egg McMuffin with a Starbucks latte and then a burger with fries and a milkshake for lunch and then a big bowl of pasta at the end of the day with snacks in between. We were never designed for that chemically, and it's certainly not the quality of food we had in our past. So when we look at diets, and you could take any diet from keto to vegan to vegetarianism to carnivore to paleo, Mediterranean, the South Beach diet, I mean, fill in the blank. There's one thing, by the way, any vegans in the room? Hope not, because I'm about to offend the vegan. Yeah, they'll be gone. Whoever gets up and leaves. Actually, I love vegans. I love vegans. I eat them all the time. I love cows. I love deer. I mean, I eat vegans literally every chance I get. So really the veganism thing, there's two problems with that. Number one is it does work in the short term because you're getting rid of all this crap that we're going to talk about. But in the long term, you run into a lot of nutritional deficiencies like B12 and lack of protein and the wide spectrum of amino acids. So from a nutritional standpoint, it doesn't really hold up long term. And really from an ethical perspective, I think it's completely absurd as well. Because it's all about the animals. We want to keep the cows and the chickens alive and keep them healthy, which is great, but what animals do you care about? You ever plowed a soybean field? Do you know how many rabbits and chipmunks and squirrels you kill when you do that? And not to mention the landfowl and the crickets and the butterflies and every other species of animal. So which animals really matter when it comes to animal cruelty? So that's what you really have to ask. And then the other thing is a lot of these people will have their cell phones, which have cobalt in their iPhone, which is mined by children in Nigeria and in the Congo, making about 5 cents a day as they're chipping away at cobalt, inhaling toxic carcinogenic fumes. So it's just absurd on its face when you look at it. So anyway, the one thing all those diets have in common is that they turn off the GPS. So the G stands for grains, mainly processed grains. So your bread, pasta, cereal, crackers, chips, pretzels, cookies, bagels, muffins, pastries, oatmeal, donuts. All of our processed grains are highly inflammatory. Now, whole grain is a little better than white grain, and Ezekiel bread is better than Wonder bread. But in the summation of those, bread is still just bread. When you eat bread, how quick does it turn into mush? Immediately. So the amylase in your saliva breaks that bread down into simple starch or sugar. So by the time it gets into your stomach, you've already converted that bread into sugar. And we talked about the glycemic index. Probably people heard me say this before. The glycemic index is how quickly something turns into sugar. What turns to sugar quicker? Whole wheat bread, the healthy bread, or a Snickers bar? Bread. Bread turns to sugar faster than Snickers bar converts to sugar. And here's another one for you. White bread or table sugar? White bread. White bread turns to sugar faster than table sugar turns to sugar. Look it up. You can Google the glycemic index. You'll find it. It's right there. So we're eating all these processed grains, and then we have processed seed oils. So like your cottonseed oil and your sunflower oil and your peanut oil and your canola oil. By the way, canola is genetically modified rapeseed oil, which sounds bad enough, and it stands for Canadian Oil Low Acid. So it's an acronym for that genetically modified rapeseed oil. And they have to take this sludge that they basically take when they press the oil into a usable product, and they have to deodorize it because it stinks like crazy, and they have to basically break it down and separate it with a chemical called hexane, which is highly carcinogenic. So by the time it gets onto your grocery store shelf, it's already rancid, omega-6. It's really some of the worst stuff we can put in our bodies. But what does the American Heart Association recommend you eat every day? Canola oil, right. And we'll talk about the right oils later. And then with processed food, if you get your food from a bag that's handed to you through a window, probably going to be a processed food, more than likely. And then the last one is sugar, good old-fashioned sugar. And those things drive and create a condition in the body called inflammation, which is the underlying driver of most, if not all, cancers, cardiovascular disease for sure, Alzheimer's disease. Do you know what they're calling Alzheimer's and dementia now?
Type 3 diabetes.
Type 3 diabetes. That's the new mnemonic for Alzheimer's and dementia, because we know the problems with insulin metabolism and sugar metabolism is actually driving those neurodegenerative diseases. Pulmonary arthritis, autoimmune, neurological diseases, diabetes, all driven by or directly caused by inflammation. So there's two I's when it comes to things we need to avoid. There's inflammation and there's insulin resistance. Those are the two biggies when it comes to what do I want to avoid in order to stay healthy, lose weight, feel good, avoid cancer. You have to reduce inflammation. You have to avoid insulin resistance. So insulin resistance leads to tiredness, hunger, difficult in concentration, weight gain mainly around the belly, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol issues. So with most of these, you have high blood pressure and you go to your doctor, what do they give you? A drug. You have high cholesterol, what do they give you? Difficulty concentrating or ADHD, what do they give you? Drug. Weight gain, now they give you Ozempic, That's the new thing. The Wegovy, Ozempic, semaglutide are all basically the same thing. Those are your GLP agonists. That's the new wonder drug, by the way, because it does work. You can give it to some people. They take their little injection. They pay hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a month, and they lose weight. The problem is about 37% of that weight loss is bone, muscle, and connective tissue. So you're getting thinner, but you're getting fatter because you're losing lean muscle. So you really got to do your research when it comes to those things. And the minute people come off of those drugs, guess what happens? Skyrockets. What a great wonder drug for the drug companies. It's a blockbuster. Insulin resistance leads to type 1, 2, prediabetes, gestational diabetes, cancer, coronary artery disease, hypertension, atherosclerosis, obesity, high cholesterol, fatty liver, PCOS, Alzheimer's, neuropathy, which some of you guys are currently dealing with, blindness, kidney failure, eye problems, erectile dysfunction. It's essentially the underlying cause of every chronic disease that we can name. Now, the beautiful thing is you can fix those two things. You can fix or reduce or prevent all of those things. It's really just that simple. It's simple, but it's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it, right? So the way we recommend, this is kind of, and this may not be right for everybody. Every case can be a little bit unique. Meat, veggies, and fruits. So when you choose to eat, you go out to a restaurant, you go to the grocery store, meat, veggies, and fruits. That's what you want to try to lean toward. Meat would be your chicken, beef, lamb, turkey, eggs, and then your veggies and your fruits. And then down there you have some nuts and seeds and berries and beans. You know, God food, stuff that He put on this earth for us creatures who were made by Him to eat and thrive off of. Not this processed garbage. Do you realize there's no essential carbohydrates? There's essential proteins. We call those essential amino acids. And there's essential fats. We call those essential fatty acids. But there's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. And essential means two things. It means essential because you have to have it or you're going to die. Like it's essential to human physiology. And the other reason it's essential is because you have to get it from the diet. Or you have to get it from the outside in. So there's essential fats, there's essential proteins, but there are no essential carbohydrates. Now, I'm not anti-carb. I eat Miss Norma's wonderful carbs, that she's an amazing baker. She's not trying to kill me. She's doing it with love, but it's the most amazing baked goods I could ever imagine. So I do still eat some carbs, but we'll talk about in a minute. Metabolic flexibility is what allows you to be able to do that. And we'll talk about how to pull that off. So when it comes to meat, you guys heard that red meat's bad for you? Am I the only ones ever heard that? Or eggs are bad for you? You're good. Watch the cholesterol, right? I wish I could spend an hour on this. Eating cholesterol has zero effect on your blood serum cholesterol. So about 85 or more % of your cholesterol is produced by your liver. So only about 10 to 15% of it is actually coming from what you eat. And cholesterol is actually a repair material. Anybody in construction, it's like a repair. It's like plaster that you put on the wall. So we eat all these inflammatory foods with the sugar and the bad oils and too many grains, and the interior of our arterial wall starts to get nicked. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. I need some cholesterol. It starts gouging or taking chunks out of the drywall. So what your body does in its brilliance is it stimulates the liver to produce more cholesterol to patch up that damaged arterial wall. So your body's using cholesterol to protect itself against you. So it's a repair mechanism. It's brilliant. The problem is when the cholesterol that we make gets oxidized. That's a whole other ballgame. I don't have time to go through that. But the cholesterol is not the bad guy. It's the guy at the murder scene that gets blamed for the crime. So it's not the problem. It's just there when the problem happens. So in the red meat studies, by the way, what they did was they did a retrospective study where they gave people a questionnaire, and they said, in the last year, how many times did you eat red meat? I ate, 17. Who even knows? Like, I don't even remember what I ate 2 days ago, much less a year ago. But you mark down how many times you eat red meat, and then they associate how many people ate that red meat and how much they ate with how much cancer, heart disease, and diabetes they got. And they made that ridiculous assumption that eating more meat caused more colon cancer and cardiovascular disease. And do you know what they counted as red meat? Hamburger, French fries, and a drink, That was red meat. And lasagna. That was also considered a red meat. So is it really the meat, or was it the French fries? Or was it the pasta? Or was it the sugar? Or was it the... So it's ridiculous on its face. When it comes to meat, the source does matter. So when you get meat, the health of the animal actually does make a big difference. So you have these healthy cows. I call those the Hillsborough Road cows. Go down the hill, you see the happy cows. They're out grazing. They got all this land, and they're in the sunshine, and their kids are running around next to them, like the happy cows. And then you have the factory farm, the prisoners, where they stand on a concrete slab, and they're basically kept in a cage, or they stand in a very small pen outdoors, which is full of like their manure. They eat corn and soy all day long. When you feed an animal corn and soy all day long with no exercise, guess what that animal gets? Fat and sick. So what they have to do is pump them full of antibiotics and vaccines in order to keep them healthy. So the health of the animal is really what makes all the difference. The problem is, when you get to the grocery store, all health choices are made at the point of purchase. You got to know that. So we could talk all this good talk, but where the rubber meets the road is where you get to the checkout line at the grocery store. Because you got the one meat that's like grass-fed, pasture-raised, no antibiotics, all organic, and it's like $15 a pound. And then you got the other stuff that's like $6 a pound. I'm like, yeah, I'll go with the 6. It looks the same, smells the same, kind of tastes the same. So really, that's where the difference matters. If you spend money on healthy food that makes you healthy, is that an investment or an expense? Do we believe that?
No.
We just know the right answer, right? Because we know the right answer, but do we actually play that out in our life? Because spending money on things that actually build our health and give us more energy and help us to avoid cancer and heart disease, that doesn't go in the cable TV category or the utility bill category or the mortgage payment. Those are all expenses. This is actually an investment, so it's rewiring our budget. You got the happy chickens that eat the grub worms and the insects versus the ones that are kept in the pens. Do you know what that is underneath the chickens? Tilapia pond. You're exactly right. It's a great twofer. So you feed the chickens, and then the chickens feed the tilapia, which is frankenfish, by the way. So if you're eating tilapia, that ain't even a real thing. It's like a genetic, it's not even, I don't even know how they consider that. That's the healthy fish. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So avoid that. And then when you do eat fish, you want to get wild caught, not farm raised. And they used to tell you farm raised is better than wild caught. That is such a bunch of garbage. How we think we can manipulate God's creation and actually market that as being healthier for people just blows me away. And then they take the wild fish or the farm fish and they give it this kind of this orangish color. They put a dye in it to make it look more like the wild caught fish. And then your farm raised fish are going to be eating other dead fish and corn and all this other garbage that they give them. They bioaccumulate mercury. When you eat fish, the bigger the animal, the worse the toxic load. Do you know why that is? So the bigger fish eat the smaller fish, eat the smaller fish, eat the smaller fish. So by the time you get from the swordfish or the big tuna down to the little herring or the sardines, the mercury accumulation and the toxins and the PCBs have all just accelerated. And then the other piece of bad news is the worst kind of fish are the ones that have claws and feet and climb around on the bottom of the ocean floor, because they eat the poop of all the fish that swim above them, and that's what they eat. So they're eating all the toxic dump of the fish that are above them. And I love some crab legs. I'm like, with this dietary stuff, by the way, it's 80-20. You want to be 80-20. 80% healthy, 20% southern. So 80-20 is okay once you become metabolically flexible. Problem is, we're like the other way around. Healthy fats, we have to have healthy fats. Again, they're essential. Grass-fed meats, can I get an amen for grass-fed meats and butter? Amen, right? Avocados, tree nuts, almonds, macadamia, pecans, walnuts, not peanuts. Peanuts are not nuts, they're legumes. They grow on the ground, they get really moist and moldy. They contain a thing called aflatoxin, so avoid peanuts whenever possible, but tree nuts are great, especially if they're not roasted, they're raw, and they're unprocessed. And then what's the quickest way to turn a good fat into a bad fat?
Overheat it.
Yep, roast it. So you can turn a good fat into a bad fat by heating it up too high. That's why with olive oil, you never want to heat olive oil, at least not very high. Like maybe a little bit just kind of simmered, but not, once it smokes, it's rancid. So you just took a really, really healthy fat and you turned it into a bad fat by heating it up too high. Same with nuts and seeds. Extra virgin olive oil, flaxseed oil, very, very unstable at at high temperatures. And then your higher temperature oils would be your coconut. I don't really like palm kernel or red palm, so we do avocado oil and coconut oil. So high temperatures, coconut and avocado. Your low temperatures, olive oil and good old-fashioned butter. And that's all you need to really remember. Vitamin D, again, could spend an hour on this alone. So vitamin D is not a vitamin, by the way. It should not be called that. It's not what it does in the body. Vitamin D is actually a pro-hormone. So it's the precursor hormone for all of your other hormones, your estrogen, testosterone, thyroid stimulating hormone, progesterone. You have to have vitamin D in order to keep all your other hormones healthy. And the big myth is that the sun causes skin cancer. Raise your hand if you heard that nonsense. If that were true, two things if that were true. The cultures that get the most sun would have the most skin cancer, and we see the exact opposite of that. The ones that are the most pasty white, unsunned people are the ones generally with the highest rates of skin cancer. And then the other thing with that is we'd get it on the tip of our nose, in the back of our hands, and on our forehead. That's where it would happen. My grandfather had it on the back of his knee. So how's he getting melanoma on the back of his knee if it's caused by skin cancer? And I asked him that one time. He said, well, because I ride my riding lawnmower. It's like, what way are you riding that lawnmower? Like, is your leg like kick? How are you getting on the back of your knee? And there's a thing called anal melanoma. That kills about 400 people a year. How do you explain that one if that's from the sun? So anyway, bad visual. Cultures that get the most sun get the least skin cancer. You want your blood level to be around 60 to 90 nanograms per deciliter. That's what you want the blood test to say. Anyone had their vitamin D tested? And what they'll tell you when you get your vitamin D tested, number one is a disclaimer. If you go to a doctor who doesn't routinely check your vitamin D, find another doctor, because they don't even know the basics of human physiology if they're not routinely checking your vitamin D level. But what the scale says, as long as you're above 30 and you're not above 100, then your vitamin D level is good. 30 is the cutoff for rickets. So if you're below 30, that means you're at such deficiency that your bones are getting soft, you're likely to get bow-legged, like your body is dying for vitamin D. If you're above 100, they say that could be toxicity. A lot of reports say you can get up into the 150, 200 before that becomes an issue. If your vitamin D gets too high, which it can if you're supplementing, then you'll start to feel like kind of nauseous and achy, kind of flu-like, and you just taper it back down. I had a lady come in, she said, I went to my doctor and he freaked out. He said, my vitamin D was at 97. And I was like, high five, like, give me. And she's like, no, he was freaking out. He's like, so he freaks out about that, but he doesn't ask you what you're eating. He freaks out about that, but he doesn't ask you what your stress levels are, or how much you're exercising, or how much sleep you're getting. So that's the ridiculousness of this algorithm monkey medicine that we do in this culture, is just look at the numbers, give a pill. Look at the numbers, give another pill. That's all we do. So we have to have vitamin D. And you know that there's not a cold and flu season? That's a myth. There is no cold and flu season. There is a vitamin D deficiency season, because guess when we get the cold and the flu? Right, and guess when it magically goes away? Correct. That virus doesn't hide in your closet and wait for the weather to get cold and then jump out and grab you. And we knew this early on with the virus. I want to say that so I don't get banned on YouTube. But with the virus, we knew early on that people who had adequate levels of vitamin D had very low rates of hospitalization, death, and any kind of ventilation. We knew that. We could have given everybody in the country massive doses of vitamin D. It would have cost pennies, and we could have offset all this nonsense that we went through over these years. But I digress. So here's the real key. Here's the trick. Metabolic flexibility. That's what you want to attain. That's what you want to achieve. That allows you to have a cupcake here and there, have a little birthday treat, have a little glass of wine every now. This is what allows you to be able to do that without sabotaging your health. There was a study done in 2018 by the University of North Carolina. They found that 12% of Americans have a healthy metabolism. 1 out of 8. 1 out of 8 Americans have a healthy metabolism. That means 88% of people in the U.S. have a broken, malfunctioning metabolic system. So is it any wonder why we have so much disease and cancer, diabetes and heart disease and autoimmune conditions when everybody in this country's immune system and their metabolic system is completely hijacked? So the real key with this, your body has the capacity to use fat for fuel or carbohydrates for fuel. Now, you want to be able to use intermittently between the two of those. The problem is most people's metabolism is just pegged toward carb eating only. Those are called sugar burners. So sugar burners have a really hard time utilizing fat, so they crave a lot of carbs, they get hangry, they have to eat every 3, 4, 5 hours, and they have a really hard time mobilizing the fat that's stored on their body. They can lose 5 or 10 pounds, but then they just kind of get stuck. It's like I can lose the 10 and then I get stuck. And then 2 weeks later I gain the 10 back. And then I don't sleep very good, or they start to have skin issues, or their diabetes starts to go through the roof. So really that's the trick, is metabolic flexibility. And we'll show you how to fix that. So one key to that is a thing called intermittent fasting. Anyone ever done intermittent fasting? For the vast majority of people, that's an amazing technique. Now if you're senior citizen, over the age of 80 or 90, or if you're a kid or a growing teenager, pregnant woman, I don't recommend intermittent fasting. It's not for every single person, but for 90+% of people, this is the way to go. So the way I do this is to push my breakfast. Like I ate dinner at 7 o'clock last night, was my dinner, and then I'm probably going to eat my first meal at about 2 o'clock today. 1 or 2, just depending. So it's pushing that meal window to like a 6 or 8 hour eating window. So the ideal way to do it, people start at like a 16-8, 16 hours off, 8 hours on. So you can eat within an 8 hour window. The better way to do this is an 18-6. So an 18-hour fasting window with a 6-hour eating window. So that's really all you have to do. Because when you're doing that, after about 10 hours of no food, your body's basically looking for fuel. It's searching. So that we get up in the morning and we eat that donut or that bagel or that whatever, and then your body never has to use the stored fat for fuel. It just has a meal ready to go. So by forcing it to do that, it's actually using that stored fat. Plus, it decreases insulin and leptin, increases ketones, insulin sensitivity. You'll see some commonalities with a lot of these, the areas of the body that it helps. It reduces inflammation and it reduces insulin resistance. So highly, highly, highly effective. And then I do this about 6 days a week. And then on Sundays, we do Cinnamon Roll Sunday. That's usually what we do. So it allows us 1 or 2 days a week to kind of let the wheels fall off, do whatever you want, but you've got to spend some time reconditioning the metabolism in order to be able to do that without it completely offsetting your metabolic function. So that's the key. You've got to spend some time doing it right before you're able to mess up and do wrong. So leaky gut. So the leaky gut, anyone heard of leaky gut? Intestinal permeability. It's becoming more popular. We've been talking about it for years, but it's finally kind of getting some mainstream traction. That is a really, really, really big deal. Your gut, if we were to take your gut, if we were to like reach through your mouth and pull everything out this way and spread it out, it'd be about the size of a tennis court. So your gut, it's a single cell layer, one single layer of cells, and it spans about the width of a tennis court. So what we have here is we have like toxins and microorganisms and gluten and glyphosate and all these other things that cause weakness or breaks in these tight junctions. So the cells are held together really tight by zonulin and occludin. They're basically 2 enzymes that keep those tight junctions together. They start to break apart, and it allows that your food actually passes into your bloodstream, and then your immune system starts to attack it. If anybody wants to, you can Google like what percentage of Americans have leaky gut. It's about 85%. So it's not a small number. It's almost everybody in America. Because when you were a kid, you had a couple rounds of antibiotics. And I eat a little bit of fast food every now and then. And the other big cause of this is a thing called whiplash. Seem weird?
Yeah.
Like how would whiplash affect my gut? So what happens, and what they know from about a 10 to 15 mile an hour whiplash, when that neck gets jerked back like that, your vagus nerve becomes damaged. So then the way it communicates with that gut is within about 7 hours you start the process of leaky gut, and if it's unaddressed and undealt with, then it actually within about a week's time you're full-blown leaky gut from a whiplash. because it affects the neurology, the way the brain is communicating with those tight junctions. Hey, Dr. Brock, can I use you for a minute? So this is Dr. Brock, by the way. Give him a hand. It's the man. So Dr. Brock, this is the external environment. And then Dr. Brock is the sterile internal environment. So he's sterile. I don't know if you, no, I'm kidding. He's got two beautiful kids. But the internal part, this is our gut lining. It's basically one cell layer thick, and it's a lot like the screen door in the house. So it lets the oxygen in, keeps the bugs out. It's a barrier that prevents what you're eating and you're being exposed to from getting into your bloodstream. So what happens when we eat the glyphosate and the grains and the bad food and the toxins, we start to get all these little perforations. I'm not going to stab you. There you go. That's probably smarter. So then it's like a kid throws a baseball through the screen door. So now it's allowing your food to pass into the bloodstream, and then your immune system says, oh gosh, here we go. Now we got a foreign invader. I don't recognize this. So it creates antibodies to begin attacking your food. That's where all these food sensitivities come from. People say, I'm allergic to cantaloupe. Like, really? It's cantaloupe? Or do you have a leaky gut that cantaloupe passed through and then your immune system recognized it, and now forever your body's going to start attacking that as a foreign substance? So it's not really the food. Food sensitivity studies are suspect at best, but it's the health of the lining of the gut and the leaky gut. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, buddy.
Appreciate that.
That's what I'm paid to do.
That's right.
Right?
So that's the analogy, and then those can lead to nutrient malabsorption, autoimmunity, food intolerances, which a food allergy and a food intolerance, or a food intolerance and a food allergy are two different things. A food allergy is when you eat the food and you get sick immediately. Like, you know, if you eat gluten and you're celiac, then that's going to immediately cause that symptom. Blood-brain barrier breach, systemic inflammation, and this leads to a lot of other downstream issues with depression and anxiety and OCD and migraine headaches and fatigue and hormonal disruptions, and I mean the list is just a mile long. So the benefits that when we do heal the gut, we see enhanced resilience to stress, clearer skin, reduced seasonal allergies. We say, oh, we all have seasonal allergies because we live in Nashville. Well, maybe, but not everybody gets them. So if it was just the pollen or the ragweed or the dust or the kitty cat, then why doesn't everybody get the same symptoms? Why do some people get allergies and some people don't? Because when you get exposed to those things, your body releases a chemical called histamine. And if you release the right amount of histamine, then you have no symptoms. You feel fine. You don't even know the pollen's in the air. If you release too much histamine, guess what happens now? You get the runny nose and the dry eyes or the whatever, and then you take a what? An antihistamine. Right. So we're trying to suppress the body's own reaction to basically what we're doing to our bodies. Improved cognitive function, absorption of malnutrients, anxiety, depression, less food sensitivities, energy, stronger immune system, pain and inflammation, hormonal balance, better moods. That's a big, big deal. It's not a small thing. So what we have for that is this product called Repair and Clear. So it's a 6-week process where you go through. We give you basically 2 shopping bags full of supplements, and there's a nutrition program to follow with that too. And there's a first phase where we want to calm down the immune system. We want to detox the liver, which is your body's master filtration system. And then the third stage of that 6-week process is repairing the gut. And there's different supplements you take on week 1 and week 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. And we show you exactly what to eat, what not to eat. But it does an amazing job of actually repairing the leaky gut so that you don't have to be so worried about every little thing that you're eating. So again, immune support, intestinal repair, and then liver cleanse, and there's a nutritional plan that comes with that. The cost on that is $16.47. Everything we're doing today is 20% off. So whatever you want to do, whatever supplement you want to get, anything today because you're here, 20% off. So today it would be 13. What's the total on that? 13, 17. So it'd save you about $300. And if you're interested in that, you can circle on your sheet, hey, I want to do the gut liver cleanse, and we can meet and talk about it if you want. And then the other thing is for metabolic flexibility. So we have a program called ChiroThin, a 6-week metabolic reset program that allows you to reset the metabolism so you can use fat for fuel instead of sugar. My lovely Michelle went through that. How much did your husband lose?
We lost 72 pounds.
And the better story, how long ago was that?
It's been three years this year.
Yes. And he's basically kept it off. Yeah. So The trick is, because you can lose weight, I can give you like 2 crackers a day and you can lose weight. But then like what happens 6 months later? So it allows you to retrain the metabolism. It raises your BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate, which is how many calories you burn per day doing nothing. And it resets your insulin receptor so that you're no longer insulin resistant and you don't crave as much food. Does he get hungry? Nope. She did it too. She didn't really like need to do it, but she's like a great support system, so she did it along with him. I think you lost a little bit too, didn't you?
20.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Most women lose about 20 to 25 pounds. Of course, most men are like 35 to 40 pounds. It's a man's world. Sorry, ladies. But you guys have a much bigger hormonal hill to climb. So it's, men can skip one dessert and lose 5 pounds, but you ladies have to work a lot harder. But that's why you guys are more important than men, because we're expendable and you guys are the more valued gender. So 22 to 40 pounds, 6 weeks, eliminate inflammation, increase BMR, increase metabolic flexibility and insulin sensitivity. Normally that's $10.97 for that program. 20% off gets it down to, $8.77? Something like that. And most people save quite a bit of that amount in the monthly, in the spending on food during that process. So the net cost ends up not being that much because you're not eating out and you're not doing the Starbucks latte and the other things. There's drops you take with it to condition the immune system or the metabolism. So it allows you to kind of increase that furnace. And then for 6 weeks, we show you exactly what to eat: proteins, veggies, and fruits. And then it's very, very simple. We can modify that based on individual demand. So the next one is toxicity and deficiency. So the top 10 toxic foods. Before we talk about that, one of the biggest toxic insults that most Americans experience is personal care products. That's really the biggie for most people. Do you know how many personal care products the average woman uses per day?
At least 10.
That's close. 13. Because you got your shampoo, your conditioner, your body wash, your lotion, your, what do you guys put on your face? Mascara, foundation, stuff in the hair, nail polish. What's that? Moisturizer, bronzer, and then another one too, I guess. I don't know my makeup. And then men aren't much better. We use about 8 products per day. Hey, kick that air on for me, Tommy. Just push it down too. Thanks, buddy. Yeah. And I will tell you, in the 20 years of doing this, my success rate of getting women to stop using personal care products is pretty bad. Like I'm 0 for like 10,000 on that. But switching to more healthier products, and the ladies can give you ideas on what to use. Aubrey Organics is a good one, and there's several different substitutions you can make. But when it comes to foods, salad dressings are usually at the top of the list, mainly because they have the bad oils, the bad fats, and they also have the sugar. So we take this nice healthy salad that's maybe 200 calories, and then we dump about 500 calories of sugar and bad oil and all this other garbage on top of it. We'll show you the substitutions for that in a minute. Candy, deli packaged meat, white bread, sprayed produce, margarine. Anyone heard of I can't believe it's not butter? And what is it? It's plastic.
The other day.
Yeah. Well, it's not butter. Well, what is it? Nobody ever asked the follow-up question. It's plastic, basically. It's basically it's petroleum-based. Diet sodas and drinks, GMO, genetically modified foods. The problem with that is about 90% of the wheat crop is GMO. About 86% of the corn crop is GMO. So you got to get it organic, know the source, buy local. Those are some ways around that. And then commercial dairy, seasoned packaged foods. Anyone ever had raw dairy? Raw dairy's great. You just pick out the hair and the dust and like, yummy. No, I'm kidding. But you know it's illegal to buy raw dairy in the United States? It is? Like you can buy cigarettes, but you can't buy raw dairy. Imagine that. Anyway, I won't go into that. So clean 15 and dirty dozen. So seasoned package like your MSGs and your enriched. We'll talk a little bit about that with methylation. We're getting there. Clean 15 and dirty dozen. So these are the foods on the clean 15 side. Don't waste your money buying organic. First of all, if you're going organic, forget about your fruits and veggies. Do your meats first. So if you're going to go organic, do meat and dairy first, because animals bioaccumulate toxins over their lifespan. So you eat a cow that's not raised well, you're eating like a 2 or 3 year cow, the meat has bioaccumulated those toxins. When you're eating a tomato that's not organic, that thing's only like a couple of months old maybe. So it's the bioaccumulation over time. The dirty dozen are the ones that you want to try to always buy organic. So best way to know this or remember this, if they spray the pesticide and it lands on the part of the fruit or the vegetable that you eat, try to get that organic. If it lands on like the banana where you peel it off and you don't eat it, then don't waste your money on buying organic bananas because you're peeling off the exterior. Now, unless you're eating the outside of the banana, then we have another conversation we need to have. But some of these don't really make sense. Like you have like, broccoli is on there. And what's the other one? Asparagus. Even bugs don't like broccoli and asparagus, so they don't have, no, that's a bad joke. It's just the way, the type of pesticide, they have their own internal pesticides, so they don't have to spray them very much. The problem is at the point of purchase. So you get to the grocery store and you've got the organic apple and you've got the non-organic apple, and the organic apple is big and shiny and red and crispy, and you got the regular conventional apple which is tiny and it looks like it's been kicked down the grocery store aisle and it costs like twice as much. Again, it's an investment.
You said it opposite.
I did?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. So yes, so it's all about the health of the food. So yes, organic is always better when it comes to apples, grapes, pears, kale. Here's the alternative for salad dressings, make your own. Or there's Annie's, there's Bolt House Farms, there's Primal Kitchen. Candy, let me skip down because I love candy. Deli packaged meat, organic is the best. If you're going to do bread, do the whole or stone ground sprouted bread, which is also known as Ezekiel bread. And then you have the Clean 15 Dirty Dozen. Again, butter, olive oil, coconut and olive oil, or avocado oil. Greens powder, Zevia, kombucha. We have that little hydrate drink, which you guys might have tried. We add that to the water. It gives you tons of electrolytes and minerals. The problem is, it doesn't matter how much water gets into your bloodstream. We say drink more water, drink more water. It matters how much gets into your cells. So you can drink a gallon of water, but if you're not absorbing it, you're still going to be dehydrated. It's how much of that water gets into the cell. So I used to drink like 4 of these a day, those big liter things, and now I put the electrolytes, drink like 1 or 2 of them a day, and I'm more hydrated on the other end of that because it gets it into the cell. GMO, commercial dairy, and then your seasoned packaged foods, you're switching to like organic or more natural alternatives. So we're going to spend the next hour or so going over this chart. This is all the I'm kidding. This is all the biochemistry of, So this is the way your body breaks down the food that you eat. Do you know what the most important nutrient is to the human body? Anybody know? Somebody said protein?
Protein, I think.
Any other guesses? It's the one that you're lacking. So it's the thing that you need that you're not getting enough of, is the most important thing to your body. So it could be vitamin B6 or D or water or air or sun, whatever. Whatever your body needs it's not getting is the most important thing. So these genetic SNPs are basically the way your body takes food and produce. We don't use food in any way that we eat it. There's no food that you eat that gets used in the way that you have eaten it. Does that make sense? So you take crude oil out of the ground. You can't stick that into your gas tank. It has to be refined and processed. You can't take crude oil, put it in your tank. It has to be refined. So the methylation process is the way your body takes your food, breaks it down, and makes it into a usable form by the body. So I can't get into a ton of this because we don't have the time, but we do testing. There's 9 different genetic SNPs. This is my testing, by the way. I did this a couple weeks ago. So it shows these 9 different genetic SNPs. The big one is called MTHFR. Anyone ever heard of that? MTHFR. If you Google that, you're going to get to a lot of real seedy websites. So don't Google MTHFR. I won't tell you what the acronym for that is. If you could do the math, you could probably figure that out. But about 44% of Americans have a break in the MTHFR gene, which is the way you take folic acid and turn it into a usable form called folate. Folic acid is toxic for people that have that MTHFR gene break. So for about 44% of people, when they eat enriched food or fortified food or enriched bread, if you look on the label and it says enriched, that means they have dumped folic acid into that food. If you look at your vitamins and see folic acid, run for the hills. If you see cyanocobalamin for B12, run for the hills, because those are cyano comes from cyanide. So you want methylcobalamin and you want methylfolate, ideally, especially if you have those gene breaks. So anyway, several of those. COMT is one for me. But when these breaks happen, your body has to compensate and figure out other pathways to get to the same end result. But when like with COMT, with the one I have a double positive for, that one is associated with people that have anxiety and depression and OCD and cardiovascular disease and increased rates of cancer. Now, luckily, I'm not really at risk for those because my backup pathways are still working, but the question is for how long? So as good as I eat and as many supplements as I take, there's a lot of things that I'm really missing. I need more B3 and B6. I need more omega-3s. Like it's a real customized design for we always say test, don't guess. Because people will say, well, I'm taking this supplement because I saw it on Dr. Oz. Or my grandmother told me to take this. Like you take it because you need it. Nervous system and stress. The one thing with this is your body, we have the most amazing self-healing, self-maintaining, self-organizing machine on planet Earth inside of our body. You cut your finger, it heals. You sprain your ankle, it heals. You get a cold, it heals. Your body knows what to do every second of every day. It's really, it's a wonder of creation. It's a wonder how we can pummel our bodies the way we do, and yet it still gets us to work, and it still gets us to the job. We're still able to function in spite of all the stuff that we do to it. But your brain is like a big computer, and in order for your heart to beat, your lungs to breathe, to digest your food, and to wiggle your fingers and toes, your brain is having to send messages down your spinal cord and then out those nerves into every organ, cell, every tissue of your body. At about 360 miles an hour, your brain is shooting messages down the spinal cord into all your nerves and organs and tissues in order to keep you alive. Now, if I was to cut the nerve to the heart, what do you think would happen to the heart? Done. Is that a belief or a fact? Fact. Any volunteers want to try that? No. Get Dr. Brock back up here. So if you cut the nerve of the heart would be dead. If I pinch the nerve to the heart, because that nerve comes out of the lower part of your neck, the one that controls your heart. If you had a whiplash when you were 16 or you fell off of a ladder when you were 30 and you damaged that nerve, but you didn't have pain because only 6% of that nerve causes pain, but it was choking the nerve supply to that heart, is your heart building health or disease? Is it getting healthier or sicker? Is it functioning at 100% or less than 100%? So that's really the thing with this. It's not about pain and symptoms. It's really about function. And the way your spine works is very similar to like the fuse box in your house. So you got a fuse box in the house. The power comes from the road, goes to the fuse box, and gets distributed to all the parts of the house, the kitchen, the living room, dining room, basement. So if there's an overload of stress, we will tend to blow a fuse, just like in the spine. We give it the weakest link to protect the whole system. That's why people say, well, every time I get stressed out, anyone ever where does people hold their stress?
Shoulders and neck.
Shoulders, neck. I hold mine more in my lower back. Anyone ever hold their stress in their pinky? Every time I get stressed, my big toe just killed. Nobody says that. It's always their neck or their back because that's where your fuse box is at. So the job of a chiropractor, from a mechanical perspective, is to replace the fuse, but then also show you how to reduce that influx and that overload of stress. And when it comes to stress, there's good and bad stress. It ain't all bad. So there's good stress and there's bad stress. If you lift a weight over and over, that's going to stress your muscles, which encourages your body to grow. And the best stressor that I like to use is cold plunge and sauna. Anyone do the cold plunge? Yeah, that's a fun one, isn't it? No, it's terrible. It's awful. But it's forcing you to do things that your body doesn't like. There's a part of your brain called the anterior cingulate nucleus. It's a big fancy, I say that so I sound smart. A part of the brain that actually grows when you're under stress, intentional stress, that your body has to adapt to. Like when people that are overweight start to go on a diet and lose weight, that anterior cingulate nucleus starts to grow in their brain. And then when they fall back off track and they go back to their old ways, that part of the brain begins to shrink. Now what's fascinating is they see people with longevity studies, the people that are living the longest tend to have the largest anterior cingulate nucleus. That part of the brain is actually bigger in people that live longer. So it benefits us to stress ourselves intentionally. The problem is we have a crisis of comfort in this country. We just want to be comfortable. We want to feel good. We want to be warm. Aging, I heard this the other day and it's so true. Aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort. Like the more we pursue being comfortable, the quicker we age. No, Grandma, don't go outside, it's too hot. No, don't go, it's too cold. Don't lift that, sit up, put your feet up, you need to rest. Don't, we tell people to do less and less and less, and they get sicker and older and more frail. So we have to push ourselves to do more and more things that are uncomfortable in order to keep our bodies healthy. So that's the nervous system. Oxygen and lean muscle. The one thing you can write down is the presence of oxygen is the absence of disease. The presence of oxygen is the absence of disease. Cancer hates oxygen. Cardiovascular disease in the arterial wall loves oxygen. So anytime you have oxygen in the system, you're minimizing or decreasing your effect on having chronic disease. So this is, anyone ever done box breathing? So we'll do one round of box breathing. So sit up real tall. We'll do a little, first of all, do this. Sit up real tall, like the way Mama taught you. Take a real big deep breath and blow it out. We're going to spread COVID all over this place. It'll be great. Big deep breath, and then stick your head out, and now take a big deep breath. So you're going to lose about 60% of your lung capacity when your head goes forward. So part of the issue with people that come in with chiropractic care, they come in like this. Like they literally have that horrible forward head posture. That's just not because, that's not like a postural, you look weird walking in the store kind of thing. It's really a physiological problem. Because when your head goes forward, you can't raise your arms as high over your head. Your cortisol, blood pressure, everything changes when your head translates forward. It's really more than just a posture, it's function. So we're going to do 4 of these. So box breathing goes like this. What we do is we do a 4-second inhale. It's 4 seconds in, hold for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. In 4, hold 4, out 4, hold 4. We'll do 4 of those. So ready? We'll go 4 seconds in. Ready? 2, 3, 4. Out 4. You hold that exhalation for 4 seconds. And then 4 seconds back in. Hold that for 4 seconds. Then out 4. Let's do one more. So inhale 4 seconds. Hold. Then out. Anyone feel different?
That actually lowers your blood pressure, huh?
100%.
That's what they taught me.
Yep. Yeah. And it kicks you out of what's called sympathetic dominance in the nervous system. So your nervous system, we have a fight or flight and we have a rest and repair part of the nervous system. You run from a tiger, and then you have the other part that lets you heal and recover. The problem is we're running from tigers all day long. Like we're just, we got the bills to pay, and now my kid's crying, and we got, somebody cut me off in traffic. Like we're literally running. Then we got social media, because that's all like helpful, calming information on that phone, right? So we're literally driving ourselves to death with this sympathetic overload. So 4 of those a day, do it 4 times a day, 4-second holds, 4-second inhalations over 4 rounds. So 4 rounds, 4 times a day. You do that, it will 100% change the way you feel throughout your day. Guaranteed. There's zero doubt about that. Now, you're not going to be able to see this, but she talks about muscle, or you're not going to be able to hear it. So she talks about muscle is the organ of longevity. If you lose your muscle, you age, you're going to be in a bad situation. We need muscle to get out of a chair. Need muscle to perform daily life functions. And muscle is also a metabolic organ that improves your insulin sensitivity. So if you start to lose muscle, you start to become more insulin resistant. So muscle is actually the key to healthy longevity. It's not cardiovascular health. It's not your diet necessarily. It's your body's ability to maintain and keep muscle, which determines how well you age and how long you live. That's one of the biggest determinants. And it's not about getting big and bulky and being a bodybuilder, but it's about maintaining or even gaining some muscle size as you age. Would you rather look like that marathon runner or that lady that lifts weights? Right. About 60% of marathon runners are either overweight or underweight. So they're really not very healthy. And we're really sprinters we're supposed to be moving quickly, and we're more burst people by nature. This is Joan McDonald. You ever heard of Joan? Get Fit with Joan is her Instagram. So when she was 70, She had high blood pressure, high cholesterol, acid reflux. She was on thyroid medication. She was pre-diabetic. She's right on the edge of becoming diabetic. And she had a conversation with her daughter. Her daughter finally wore her down and said, hey, you need to start exercising. You got to get going. So at age 70, she underwent a physical transformation program with weightlifting, a little bit of cardio, changed up her diet. Within 3 years, look at the difference. Look at the rear end on her, right? Unbelievable. Yeah, in 3 years, never lifted a weight until age 70. So if she can do it, we can do it, right? Like, what's our excuse if she's able to do that? And the most touching thing about her story is you look at, this is her Instagram page. It is my mission to inspire and uplift as many people as I can. So she turned her own selfish wanting to get healthier into being able to serve and help other people. That's her big why. So what we recommend you do if you've never done a workout program before, we've got an amazing trainer named Tommy Jordan right over here. He will work with you remotely or in person. He's awesome. But the trick with this is every week you need to push, pull, and squat. Push, pull, squat every week. So every week, at least one day, you need to push something, you need to pull something, and you need to squat or bend down. And some people say, I can't squat, I got bad knees. Well, the reason you have bad knees is because you have weak legs. If you get your quads strong, your knees feel amazing. So part of the way you have to get your knees healthy is to keep your leg muscles strong. So if you can't squat all the way down, then you squat, to where it's to pain, not through pain, and then you just go as many as you can until you get that good burn. Again, it's pushing our bodies to do things that are uncomfortable. If you want to get healthy, you have to push yourself to do the thing that's uncomfortable. And then also with lean muscle too is the amount of protein that we eat. So we're way under protein fed in this culture. We have a major deficiency problem with protein in the United States. You need about 0.8 grams per pound of ideal body weight in order just to maintain your normal healthy muscle mass. So 0.8 times your ideal body weight. So if your ideal body weight is 200 pounds, let's say, for simple math, then you need 160 grams of protein per day. I try to get about 180 grams of protein per day. If you want to gain or build muscle, you need closer to 1 gram per pound of body weight every single day. And that's a lot of protein. Like you think about that, like an egg has 6 grams of protein. So how many eggs does it take to get 180 grams? That's a lot, right? So steak, chicken, beef, if you need to supplement, we have bone broth and collagen-based protein that you could do to add to that. But we really, really have to chase protein. And the beautiful thing about eating healthy protein is you're not as hungry. Like it curbs a lot of your cravings. If you notice that, the order of your meal actually can make a really, really big difference. If you're going to change nothing else in your life, if you leave here and like, I ain't doing any of that stuff at all, I'm not doing any of it, do one thing for me, please. If you're going to eat like a cheeseburger with fries and a milkshake, hopefully there's a vegetable somewhere in there, but
Fries.
yeah, hit the fry, right. So you want to eat your veggies first. So the order of that is veggies first, protein and fat second, and then do your carbohydrates last. Just by doing it in that order, you will change the rate at which your insulin spikes. You'll get full quicker. Just doing that little bit makes all the difference in the world. Another thing we recommend with people, so you eat your veggies first. Yep. So the things that are more like broccoli, cauliflower, salad if you're doing salad. The second thing would be your protein and your fats next. And then lastly would be your carbohydrates. And you don't even have to space them out. The literature shows you don't even have to, eat your veggies and then wait a half hour. And then you don't have to space them out. You can do them just one right on top of the other. And the literature shows that insulin spike gets blunted by up to 50% just by changing the order of the food that we're eating. Now in the ideal world, we just be eating meat, veggies, and fruit. You don't even have to really worry about that. But, so be it. Somewhere else I was going with that, but I lost my train of thought. Okay. Last little section on this. So I've got the health hack. If you want the shortcut, you want the shortcut to getting healthy?
Yeah.
Okay, we got the shortcut. Here it is. That's all you got to do. Very simple. Be disciplined and do the work. That's the shortcut. You just gotta be disciplined and you just gotta do the work. It's really that easy. Because if you're disciplined, you're going to do the work, and then as you're doing the work, it makes you more disciplined. So it's a revolving door. When I go work out, I work out 7 days a week. One of those days, maybe one of those days, I'm motivated to go work out. I have motivation probably 1 day a week. I don't want to do it. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I want to hit the snooze button. I don't want to do it. I drag myself down to the basement, do my little stretching routine, which is amazing, by the way. If you start your exercise, make yourself go stretch. Do that first. I get on a foam roller and stretch. We've got a video on my website of me doing kind of my little routine. But if you go do that and stretch and foam roll, it magically wakes you up. And now you're already there. You got your shoes on. It's like, well, why don't I just go ahead and do something, right? But I have to make myself do it. But in the 30 plus years of working out, guess how many times I've regretted exercising? Once. Yeah, I tore my pec like 12 years ago. I regret that one. Wish I would have stayed home on that day. But I really never, ever finish a workout and say, man, I wish I wouldn't have done that, right? Nobody does that. Because once you make yourself do it, you feel so much better about yourself. You feel better about your day. You're more energized. You got something accomplished. It's like, it's a sense of fulfillment and it's a model for my kids and for my family. Like they see me, they don't always see me doing it, but they know Daddy's doing it, so that's the best I can give them. So be disciplined and do the work. And give yourself grace. You screw up one day, guess what next day brings you? You start over again tomorrow. Because when's the best day to get healthy? That's wrong. It's yesterday. Yesterday's the best day. When's the second best day? Today. When's the worst day?
The second Tuesday next week.
Yeah, second Tuesday. The worst day is someday. I'll do it someday. There's 7 days in a calendar week. Someday is not one of them. Like there is no someday because someday never comes. So instead of saying one day I'll get healthy, one day I'll do this. Instead of saying one day, just say day one. Like today's day one. And if you screw it up today, start over again tomorrow. It's all about it's progress, not perfection. So here is what I think is a big problem we have in society today. And I could be wrong. This is my opinion. Don't take this as fact. But we have a problem with the lack of emotional resilience. It's the ability to basically sit with our own emotions. And that's led to an epidemic of emotional fragility fueled by a narcissistic entitlement of the pursuit of comfort by the avoidance, suppression, and the intolerance of our own feelings. And I think that plays into so many problems that we see in our culture now, where we're trying to change society to make me feel okay about myself. Let's start cutting off the genitals of little kids to make everybody feel okay. Let's allow women to play boys' sports. Let's the fatherlessness in homes, the alcoholism. The list is a mile long where we do all we can to try to avoid what we're feeling inside. So I'm no expert in this by any stretch. I point you to a book called The Voice of the Heart. I forgot my copy. I was going to kind of show you some of this in person, but this is the main chart within that book. So it's a book that basically I'd like you to consider there may only be 8 core emotions. That could be true, that there's only 8 core feelings. Just like there's 3 primary colors, red, yellow, blue. Any big argument about that? No, red, yellow, blue. But out of those 3 colors, how many colors can we get? We could paint a whole world. There's 33 shades of green in Ireland out of those 3 little colors. There's 7 musical notes. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, quesadilla. Is that right? Is that what it is? I don't do music. But out of those little limited number of notes, we get classical music and rap music and pop and jazz. And we haven't even written all the symphonies that are going to be written in life. Because those little core elements are what allow us to create all that we have. You can't be an artist if you don't know the colors. You can't be a musician if you don't know the notes. And you can't live a full life on this planet if you don't know the feelings. I truly believe that. The Bible and this book have completely transformed my life. So The Voice of the Heart, highly recommend you get that book. So the 8 feelings are this, and these are gifts, by the way. These are tools. They're not gifts, they're tools. So just like your organ and your spleen and your kidney and your heart and your liver, those are just tools. They're not good or bad. They're just tools that we use to live a full life in this crazy, messed up, mixed up, broken world that we live in. So the first one is hurt. Hurt is a feeling that we have when we've been wounded. Remember, sticks and stones can break my bones, but words could never? What a crock of garbage that is. Right? Would you rather break your arm as a kid or be told by your dad when you're a kid that you're a worthless piece of garbage? Bones will heal. Words have lasting effect. So if we can sit in our hurt and through a thing called willingness, the WPWT, willingness, patience, work, and time, we have to have the willingness to sit in those feelings and not try to escape, run away, medicate, minimalize, rationalize, live in denial. If we can sit in those feelings long enough and have patience, winking at Abby, willingness, and then give it some time, then we can get to the gifts. So the key is be okay here, avoid going here, and try to move toward here. That's the trick with these. Because hurt people that can't process their hurt, they move toward resentment. Because hurt people want to hurt people, right? If they don't know what to do with their hurt. It's drinking poison hoping that it kills the other person. Highly toxic when it comes to all this health stuff we've been talking about. Resentment is pure poison. But if we can deal with our hurt, and we can process our hurt, and hand over our hurt and get through it, then it leads to healing and courage. I think that's spelled wrong. Currents. So you say courage. Loneliness is a feeling that we have when we need connection, that we need other people, that we need God, that we need ourselves, that we need relationships. Sadness is a feeling that we feel when we lose something that matters to us. Like if your dog dies, you're going to be sad, right? I was raised in the belief system that all these things are bad. Like, especially as a man. Like, you don't feel these feelings. Like, get away, get over it, suck it up, rub some dirt on it. Don't be a wimp, right? I remember in my...
was probably okay as a man.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's very confusing. We'll get to that one too. You're right. But I remember having this thing on my wall, this thing that said no fear. I used to have the no fear t-shirt. What a bunch of garbage that is. Because fear is a gift. It tells us that we're in danger. When my kid is chasing a ball out into traffic, do you think I want him to have some healthy fear? Yes, hopefully. My daughter's 16. She's driving around I-65. Do you think I want her to have a little bit of healthy fear? You better believe it, right? Now, the problem is when we get into the anxiousness that's related to fear, which is now I have to control something. I have to do something to fix my fear because I can't stand feeling that feeling in the first place. Anger is the big confusing one, and I think I know why. Because we hear anger, we think of ripping posters off the wall and punching holes in the drywall. That's rage. There's no anger in rage, and there's no rage in anger. They are polar opposites of one another. Anger brings me toward what I want. Rage pushes me away from what I want. Rage is, you're not going to get to me. I'm going to wall my heart off and do what I can to keep you from touching me. Like you see these people road raging. They're not angry. They're terrified. That's rooted in terror. But with healthy anger, that moves us toward passion. Jesus is the angriest person I've ever met. He was angry in the garden. Like, Lord, please just draw this from me. He was angry with, come on, Peter. Come on, man. Come on, let's go. He's always moving toward what he wants because that's passion. That's our pursuit of what calls us. Shame is another big one that we always think is bad, that shame's a bad thing. Shame is our recognition of being human, that I'm not God and neither are you. I don't have all the answers and neither do you. I've got mortar, you've got bricks. Let's go build a wall together, right? It's I need you, you need me. I don't have all the answers and neither do you. Kids, I have a 2-year-old. He's got a ton of healthy shame. He's laying on his back like, you know what? I'm going to pee on me and you're going to clean it up. Because I can't and you have to. That's healthy shame. Like he knows, like he's just who he is, right? But then he turns 5, we spank him for peeing on the wall, right? So that's healthy shame. Shame is that recognition that I'm human, that I'm flawed, that I can make mistakes and I need grace. The problem is when we get to ashamed. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is without healthy shame. Ashamed means without healthy shame. Amoral means without morals. Asexual, acatharsis without catharsis. So A in front of the word negates that word. So it's ashamed with ashamed. So that healthy shame brings us to humility and a thing called empathy. Like, I get you. Don't tell me about you because I know what it's like to be you. Tell me about you because I know what it's like to be me. And the more sensitive I am to me, the better I can be with you. That's healthy shame. Then you notice on the bottom the gladness, the good one, right? And by the way, guilt's a feeling we feel when we do something to someone. It's the big D-O. Like you have to do something to someone to feel guilt. It's based on action. And if we're allowed to sit in that guilt and reach for freedom and forgiveness, that allows us to repair, to forgive, give for me back, give me back for me. That's what forgiveness is. And then gladness, the good one, right? The one we all like. You notice how all those look bad, and then the last one's like the good one? Well, they're not bad or good. They're just tools. The gladness, if you want gladness, guaranteed, here's how you get gladness. Get good at the 7 feelings you don't like. You get good at those 7, you'll have gladness, guaranteed. It's inevitable. So, 24 for 24. We're going to have a little bit of time for Q&A too. So the last time we did this was in 2020, right before the world fell apart, and we did the 20 for 2020. So I want to leave you with 24 things that have really been impactful in my life that I use. I write them down in my journal, things that I go over, they're quotes, they're things that have really just been impactful in my life and in my journey. The first one is it takes a lifetime to learn how to live. There's grace in that. It really does take a lifetime to learn how to live. And you don't know if you did it good until you're dead. Isn't that great? It takes a lifetime to learn how to live, and you don't know if you did it good till you're dead. I remember years ago, my daughter, she said, Dad, why do you do X, Y, Z? And I said, I don't know, honey. It's my first time ever being a dad. And she's like, okay, I get that. It's my first time ever being 46. Like, I don't know. This is all I know. But it takes a lifetime to learn how to live. And that God gives us one day at a time. We can't change the past. We cannot control the future. All we really have is just today. So live one day at a time and give yourself the grace when it doesn't go good. Progress, not perfection. If anybody tells you they have all the answers and they do it perfect, they are a liar or they are a robot that doesn't exist. Like nobody has it all figured out. Nobody's got all the answers. The key with this is just progress and not perfection. You are the CEO of your own health, so you have to take ownership of your own health. It's not your doctor's job. It's not your spouse's job. Your health is your responsibility. You're the one that has to be responsible for it. That's just, the sooner we take ownership, the easier it is. A healthy man has 1,000 wishes, and a sick man has 1. That is so true. When my wife was sick, some of you guys know my wife's story. We had my 16-year-old daughter 16 years ago. And then about a year after that, she got really, really sick. For about 2 years, she was essentially bedridden. Like she couldn't get out of the bed, couldn't really get off the couch. Like she was basically miserable. She has a condition called POTS. It stands for Postural Orthostatic Tachycardia Syndrome, which is a big way of saying sucks. That's what that stands for. It's kind of like chronic fatigue with fibromyalgia and migraines and irritable bowel and anxiety and shortness of breath. And every time she would stand up out of a chair, her heart rate would go from like 60 beats a minute to 150 or 60 standing. Like she's sprinting on a treadmill to get out of a chair, basically. So we never went anywhere, didn't go to church or movies or anything. So during that time, I didn't care what football team was playing on TV. I didn't care about the Kardashians or my shoes or the belt or the vacation or could care less about any of that stuff. What's the only thing that we cared about? Her health. And that's the only thing she cared about too. So when you lose your health, nothing else really matters. It's really that impactful. It's that big of a deal. And for those of you that have lost your health, have had a health journey, you know that. I mean, our health is our most valuable asset. Health equals wealth. It's truly our most valuable possession. Steve Jobs, you guys know his story, died of pancreatic cancer. How much of his $7 billion or so that he had, how much of that would he have given to live one more day healthy on earth? Probably all of it, or a big chunk, right? Millions and billions of dollars we would spend to be healthy. What's the saying that we spend our youth, we sacrifice our health to build wealth, and then we spend our wealth trying to regain our health. It's like we spend the first part of our lives putting our health on the back burner, and then we spend the rest of our lives trying to regain it. I wish we could flip that around. Discipline beats motivation. Forget about motivation. It ain't going to be there. It's just a matter of digging deep and just making yourself do it. That's really where the rubber meets the road. Connecting to that big why. Why do you want to be healthy? Using that as your North Star. And then that's what drives the discipline. If you're going to be healthy at 80, you better be kicking butt at 60. Or if you're going to be healthy at 90, you better be kicking butt at 70. Or you just take that back 20 years, wherever you're at. Because the health where you are today is going to directly impact where you are in the next 10, 15, 20 years. And again, muscle mass is a big piece of that puzzle. If you need help with that, we'll be happy to steer you in the right way. Aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort. We already talked about that. I think it bears repeating that when we try to pursue being comfortable and not getting outside of our comfort zone, everything you want in your life is on the exterior of your comfort zone. In every part of life. Spiritually, financially, in your marriage, health, everything we want in life, nothing's in that comfort zone. And as we get older, that zone gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So the trick is to try to expand that. If you rest, you rust. Or as the old philosopher Willie Nelson used to say, if you slow down, you go down. That's another way to put it. And that's not to say that you never rest or regenerate or recover or relax or all those RE words. Remember and restoration. The word restaurant comes from the word restoration, to be restored. You pull over and get restored so you can go back and get on the road. But if you rest, you rust. We have to move. We have to fight this downward trend toward health and sickness and early death. Otherwise, we have no chance. Muscle mass is the key to longevity. That's another key I want you to take away from this. Your ability to keep on muscle. The problem is we give ourselves way too much credit for the little amount of things that we do. Like, oh, you know what, I work in the yard. Or, you know, I walk the dog every now and then. Or I do a little bit of this or do a little bit of that. So the problem, we have to push ourselves beyond what's easy. That's why people say, I hear it all the time when I'm working there. It's like, man, you got your workout today. I was like, no. This can't be my workout, because then that's going to be the hardest thing that I do all day. I have to work out so that this stuff is easy. That's the trick, is you got to push yourself in a controlled environment harder than you would in daily life so that daily life becomes easier and more tolerable. If it's made in a plant, avoid it. If it eats plants, or if it is a plant, then eat it. That's a good rule of thumb. And we can get into lectins and why certain plants are not whatever. I don't want to broach that topic. But if it's made in a plant, in a facility, try to avoid it. And if it eats plants, or if it is a plant, then eat it. It's a good rule of thumb. Eat to live, not live to eat. And then eat based on how you feel after, not during. I've never eaten like a salad with grilled chicken and been like, whoa, man, I should have never eaten that. Nobody does that. But if you eat the burger with the fries and the chili dog and the milkshake, it's like, oh, man. So eat based on how you feel after the meal, not during the meal. But we all love that mouth pleasure, that little bit of like, it's so yummy. But it's based on how we feel after. Supplement for deficiency, which brings us to the next one, which is test, don't guess. So you want to make sure that you're testing and you're not just randomly wasting money, possibly hurting your health by just taking random things that your body doesn't need. What about the kids? For those, and some of you, maybe what about the grandkids? A couple things with our kids. Number one is we can never ask our kids to do something we're not willing to do. And we can never ask them to stop doing something we're currently doing. So we have to be the role model. So we have to model for them what it means to be healthy. One of the biggest gifts we can give our children and our grandchildren is for them to see how we've recovered and enhanced our own health. And the other thing with kids is beat the crap out of them every day. I beat the crap out of my son every single day. So I'll go home from work and I'm tired. I'm like kind of dragging a little bit. And he's like ready to go. So he wants to wrestle. So I grab him, we throw him on the bed, and then my daughter's there, we'll grab her too, and just, it's amazing, and he loves it. It's the most incredible thing for him. He would take that over anything else in his life. And it stimulates all those movement pleasure pathways, oxytocin, serotonin, all those pleasure chemicals. The bonding from that is unbelievable. So beat the heck out of your kids every single day. We have one rule, no eye gouging and no crotch shots. That's the two rules. We all have a health savings account, so everything, every decision, every choice, you're either debiting or you're crediting. It's either a withdrawal or it's a credit. Everything you do, every bite of food is a credit or it's a withdrawal. Every exercise, every decision not to exercise, every time you come into get it adjusted, it's a credit or it's a debit every single time. Love the process. I think that is really what sustains people long term, is when they learn to love the process. If you're just going for the outcome, I want to lose the 20 pounds, or I want to fit in the dress, or I want to do whatever, if that's really only your goal and you don't love the process, it's not going to be sustainable. So you have to find a way to love the process of exercising, getting up early, doing the things you need to get healthy. Forget happiness, seek joy. I hate happiness, the pursuit of happiness. Because happiness is based on happenstance. Because if things happen that I like, then I'm happy. And if things happen that I don't like, then I'm not happy. So my happiness goes up and down based on all these external circumstances. So forget about happiness, seek joy. You know what joy has in all those, joy has inside of it? All those feelings that we don't like, especially sadness. Because when you feel joy, there's a little piece of you that says, this isn't going to last forever. Or what did it take to get here? Or when's it going to go away? So it's being able to live life on life's terms and navigate all those feelings so that you can have joy. It's an undertow. It's an underlying sense of everything's going to be okay. And it leads us also to acceptance. Acceptance is it's not okay, and it's okay that it's not okay, and it's going to be okay. That's, I think, as close to joy that we're going to get. Like, it's not okay if your dog dies or your child dies. And the fact that that's not okay is okay. And then ultimately, it'll be okay. That's joy. Fix you first. Clean my side of the street. So I'm guilty of this a lot. Instead of staying on my side of the street, I'll peek over that guardrail at my wife's side. And I'll say, well, no, you're not doing X, Y, and Z. So my life goes better when I just keep this side of the street clean. And just quit peeking over the guardrail. Fix you first. Be the model. Be the model. And then own your emotions. Your emotions are yours. On the emotional front, I used to hate the saying, you make me so mad. Do you know how ridiculous that sounds? Or you make me whatever. You can't make me mad. Now I can have a feeling about what you did to me or what you said to me, but my feelings are my own. You can't make me sweat. You can't make me urinate. You can't make me digest food. You can't make me do any of those things. So you can't make me have a feeling. It's a narcissistic, grandiose notion that we can make people in moods. And it's completely ridiculous. We have to own our own internal experience. One of the best things that I've learned that I don't often use, but I need to, when it comes to dealing with relationship, is I feel blank when you blank, and I need blank. And then shut up. So I feel hurt when you show up late, and I need you to show up on time. And then shut up. Because I'm not attacking you. I'm just telling you how I feel in my relationship to what you did or what you said around me, and here's what I need from that. There's no accusation, there's no this, there's no that. I'm leading with my own internal experience. If I start a statement with the word you in the first 3 words, the wheels are going to fall off. There's no doubt about it. You did this, and anytime you do that, the defenses go up. It's a fight, it's on. But if I say, hey man, I feel sad when XYZ happened, and I need you to do this, there's no arguing that. And then, speak fear, seek courage. That's a big one too, because courage is not the lack of fear. It is having fear and then moving through it anyways. So we have to speak our fears. Like I had fear coming in to do this talk today. Like, I'm not some robot. I mean, I have fear that this is going to land well, it's going to work, that these people engage and not fall asleep. Like, there's fear involved with doing things like this, but then seeking the courage of doing it in spite of. So telling God what I'm afraid of every morning has really been big. And then last one is that kindness and gratitude always win. Always, 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 always. You're never losing if you're kind and you're living in gratitude. That gratitude, by the way, if you have trouble finding that, just realize that as a culture, we have it so good in this culture. There's so many people that have no running water. They live in squalor. There's about 1 million families in Egypt that are raising their families on a trash dump every day. They live on a trash heap. And we complain about how bad we got it here. So gratitude is the key. So I wanted to leave you with some things that you could do. This 12-week health transformation. And these are all free. You can do these every day, all on your own with no money. First morning sun while grounded. So first thing in the morning, you go out, take off your shoes and socks, stand in the grass, and watch the sun come up over the horizon. And you do that, you do several things with that. Number one is when you're standing in that grass, you're absorbing electrons from the earth. You're getting energy from the earth. Anyone ever heard of grounding? That's a more common thing nowadays. So you're getting electrons from the earth. And then the other thing is you're doing when you're doing that deep breathing, do the box breathing while you're doing that, you're also staring into the sun, which is actually healthy for you because at that low level there's no UVA, no UVB, and you're resetting your melatonin cycle. So one of the best things you can do for a good night's sleep, stare at the sun for 10 minutes as it's coming up over the horizon, and then 16 hours later you'll get a natural serotonin release. So it resets the circadian rhythm. One of the biggest things.
That's like 10 minutes?
Yep. 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes a day. And you need to do it without sunglasses or a windshield, preferably. You want to do it just directly into the sun. And you'll feel so much better. Like you get out and get moving in the morning. PMR in the AM, I do this every morning. It's my prayer, meditation, and reading. So read something that's meaningful. Spend about 4 or 5 minutes just kind of sitting quiet with myself, kind of processing what I'm actually feeling internally, and then pray, and then surrender that day to God. Because when I surrender it to a power bigger than myself, then I don't have to be in control of what happens during that day. It's much more free. Water, half your body weight in ounces per day, preferably with those minerals. And then the box breathing, remember 4 times a day for 4 rounds each time. Meat, veggies, and fruit. And then 20 minutes of exercise daily. And then if you want to do 40 minutes, 3 days a week, however the math works on that, but about 140 minutes a week. And then stretching, foam rolling, 15 minutes a day. A lot of you guys would hold your adjustments a lot better if you could do 15 minutes of stretching and foam rolling every single day. I mean, I love seeing you, but it would last longer if we could do that every single day.
Do you sell the foam roll?
Yeah, I think we're giving one away. We're doing a raffle for one too. But yeah, I think we have some. We sell the squishy ones. I like the hard one.
What's that big white one that you have in the video?
I'm not sure. The one I use is like it's a hard, but some people can't tolerate the hard one right away because it's too abrupt. So you got to use like a softer one and work into it. And here's the 12-week transformation that's not free. So I'm doing a coaching program. So it's basically a one-on-one coaching program for anyone that's interested. So basically we're going to take you over the 12 weeks, coach you through this step-by-step where we do the genetic methylation testing to see where your pathways are broken and what ways we have to do to repair that, the pre and post x-rays, pre and post blood work, checking about 71 different metabolic markers, pre and post metabolic testing, which measures your vitamin mineral status, your oxidation levels, omega-3 status, Chirothin, the metabolic reset program, the gut repair and detox program, customized supplements because most people will need things more, beyond those 2 programs. We have a personal trainer weekly that we pay for that's part of the program. So you'll meet with your personal trainer. We'll figure out based on your spine and your health and your goals exactly what to put you through for those 12 weeks. HelloFresh, we've contacted them and set up an account where we will deliver your food to you customized based on your nutritional goals and what your blood tests and all your markers are. So you get your food, spend 20 minutes cooking your meals, and you got all the healthy food you need. And then I do a one-on-one personal coaching once a week. So spend about 45 minutes to an hour, one-on-one, kind of working through all that. So for the people that want that, that's normally $15.57. Seems like a lot. It's a big number. But again, it's an investment. I mean, if you could get healthier,